Women's IP World. Women's IP World. Women's IP World.
Welcome to episode 7 of season 4 from the Women's IP World Annual Podcast, a podcast series that's shining a spotlight on women in intellectual property. I'm your host, Michele Katz, and I'm the founding partner of the law firm Advitam IP, which in Latin means intellectual property for life. We are based out of the US in Chicago. Me and my firm are hosting this podcast on behalf of Northlands Media PR and Marketing Limited, based out of the UK in London. They are the publishers of the Women's IP World Annual and the Global IP Matrix magazine. The 2024 edition of the Women's IP World Annual can be found digitally at www.womensipworld.com. Again, that's www.womensipworld.com. And you can listen to the annual as well on your favorite podcast app. Keep an eye out at IP conferences to pick up a hard copy. I'd like to welcome a dear friend, Juli Gutierrez Zanelli. She is the executive director of ASIPI. And if you're not familiar with this wonderful organization, you will be very impressed with what they are doing. Welcome, Juli. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, my dear Michele. I'm really very happy to be in touch with you, my dear, and truly grateful for the invitation to be part of this space for women in intellectual property. Thank you for thinking of me to join you in this podcast.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I was thrilled that you contributed an article to the Women's IP Annual for the 2024 edition. So that, of course, made this very easy. As I'm flipping through the pages and I see you there and I shoot you an email, we have to get you on the podcast. So I'm so glad that you're here. I think that not everyone is familiar with ASIPI. So why don't we first, before we go into your background, which is fascinating, and I've known you, for probably 15, 20 years, I would love if you could tell us about the ASIPI organization.
Sure. Well, ASIPI is the Inter-American Association of Intellectual Property. It's a non-profit organization that works to strengthen intellectual property in our region through education, studies of IP, etc. ASIPI have different working groups like committees and special teams. Our members join these groups and are really the heart of the association because they propose ideas and work in different projects, of course, with the support of the association. ASIPI also have several institutional programs. Some of them offer service for both members and non-members. I can mention, for example, ASIPI Educa, ASIPI Emprende, ASIPI Pro Bono, ASIPI Educa, ASIPI Verde. But also we create some programs that are specifically for our members, such as ASIPI Fit, ASIPI Clubs, ASIPI Mentoria, ASIPI Joven for young generation. But in general, I would like to take this space to invite to everyone who is listening us to visit our website and learn more about our programs.
So actually, while we're on the topic, why don't you go ahead? What's the URL so people can jot it down or look it up?
The website is www.asipi.org.
Okay, so it's pretty simple. So it's asipi.org. Okay, so that's the URL for anyone who's interested in taking a look. It's a very dynamic group. I mean, Juli, you and I met through ASIPI. In fact, I think it took many, many years before we were really speaking English together, if I remember correctly. In my broken Spanish, I attended. But for those that don't speak Spanish, what do you say to those people?
Well, actually, as you know, because you worked many times in our events, the CP community is very open, and the people who is part of the CP also speak in English, and because the Latin American spirit that we are always welcome people from other regions or for people who cannot speak Spanish, we are gonna turn into English. So for those one who doesn't speak English and they want to join us, everyone is welcome. Don't worry about the language because we can talk to you, and I think you are gonna feel the warmth of our members.
I mean, I've always loved Mississippi and the people in it. You're right. It's a very warm environment. Everyone was so kind to me as I was. I did even do some of my meetings, actually, probably all my meetings in Spanish. But it's great to know that if that's not a language that you're dabbling in, then you can absolutely survive and thrive at an Mississippi meeting. I always enjoyed the education piece too. There's my recollection, of course, correct me if I'm wrong because it might be outdated, is that there's the annual meeting and then a smaller meeting, a mid-year meeting. And sometimes we would kind of refer it to like the Latin American INTA. Do you think that's a fair assessment when people are trying to understand, what are these conferences like that a SIPI is putting on?
Well, a CP is correct what you say. A CP have two in-person events in the year. One of these events is in June. Yeah, this time is going to be in San Salvador, in El Salvador, and this is a seminar that all is taking just 2 days, two days and a half, and it's a small event. We are expecting normally 200 people, and the topic is very specific, and we talk about that from different perspective. The annual meeting or the big congress is at the end of the year, that is taking place at the beginning of December. This year, we are going to make our congress in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
So that's my recollection also, Julie, is that a SIPI always has beautiful locations for its meetings. And while there's the education piece, there's also committee piece and social. I remember it being quite social.
Yes, in ASIPI, we are trying to combine a good experience, not just academically, but also in a social way. As you know, in our program, we also include many activities that our participants can join in different groups, in different places, good places in the cities that we make our conference, and make a good experience. So people can get relaxed and get together and make the network, and but also have the possibility to visit places that in normal way, if they visit the country, they can go. So yeah, we pay attention to this detail. But I would like to mention something that is how to say this in English, when you have something that is a problem, but it is a good problem. uh, what I want to say about it is that ASIPI is growing very fast in the last years, and now we are facing a problem because many people is coming in our congress, are participating in our events, and in the cities in Latin America, not all the cities have the capacity to receive so many people, or they don't have the structure, the infrastructure to receive people and to have the venues for our events. So this is now the problem that we are facing, but until
But a good
now
problem.
it's a good problem. We are happy with that. We are working on that. We have a specific group that is always visiting different countries, different cities in order to try to get the offer for receiving us in our events.
Right, for the annual meeting. So how many people are on average attending the December big Congress?
We were starting with 450 people after the pandemic. Then it was 600 people, and we got even in Panama 800 people. So if we continue in that line, imagine what we get in some years. No, so. Uh,
And pre-pandemic, so I remember numbers of 800 pre-pandemic when I was attending ASIPI regularly. Some were smaller, but I do remember larger meetings, and that's when you go to cities like Buenos Aires, um, maybe Rio can handle. Like there are places where ASIPI has kind of frequented, and in Colombia and Cartagena, we discussed prior to the recording when we were catching up that there are places, but yes, that's the problem. It is the good, exactly the good problem to have, that there's interest, so much interest and growing interest, and some people may just be returning, I would imagine, and then you're going to have new interest. There are organizations, PTMG is one of them, where they cap, the Pharmaceutical Trademark Group that's based out of the UK. That organization, they'll cap. So as soon as the registration goes live, I mean, people are jumping online because they will close registration.
Yeah, that is one option. We have that option in mind. It's on the table. We don't want to get at that situation. We would like to receive as many participants as we can, but it's going to be related to the city or to the place that we choose for our events. But yes, it's true. This is an option that we have.
Let's take a quick break at this time. We are going to talk more about you and your background, because you were not always the ED of ASIPI, and your publication and the latest Women's IP Annual. We will be right back.
The results are in. Discover the top 100 influential women leaders in IP law, champions of leadership, innovation, and global influence 2025. Now at www.womensipworld.com. Would you like to be recognized in next year's rankings? Be part of the top 100 influential women leaders in IP Law 2026 by subscribing today and staying informed on when submissions open. Visit www.womensipworld.com and subscribe to stay in the loop. The Women's IP World Rankings 2026, celebrating excellence, leadership, and impact in the world of intellectual property.
Welcome back. Your article is on page 6, I think, of the IP, the Women's IP Annual. We'll get there in a moment. But I find your career path so fascinating. You're in a very different place in life, professionally and personally, now than you were when we first met, pre-kids. So tell us kind of about your path.
Well, as you know, I'm a lawyer who specializes in intellectual property, and I work for over 18 years in the private practice, in the private sector, with a short break when I joined the public sector. During that time, I worked at the Unfair Competition Commission of Indecopi, which is the authority of intellectual property and competition law in Peru. In private practice, I work at two law firms, focusing only on intellectual property. And one of them, I was in charge of the international department, helping clients protect their IP abroad and also supporting foreigner clients with business interests in Peru. Um, the international department didn't exist at the time that I joined the firm, so that was my first big professional challenge. And I have to say that it brought me so many lessons and great moments, but especially, and I have to say it, this experience gave me the chance to meet people from all over the world, and I made not only great professional connection, but also I think I built personal relationships, especially friendships like I make with you. So most of them are still part of my life today, and even though I change the way that I'm working on intellectual property, and they really help me a lot to grow professionally and personally in a personally way. Well, in the second law firm that I was working, it was a different experience because I joined as a partner and I was in charge of the intellectual property area, but I have to build everything from the scratch, as it said, no, and really was very meaningful experience, and I'm sure many who have started their own firms will understand. uh, every new client and every request that came, it was feeling like a small victory. And little by little, as a group with my team, we built a very solid place in the market. So it was really very good experience. In addition, as you know, leading a team means a special kind of commitment, and we have to be involved in everything, in every step, in everything in the project and in the firm. So that was my experience as a professional in intellectual property in the private sector. But then, as you know, came my story in ASIPI.
And I mean, you really completely, I mean, I shouldn't say you didn't completely change. You're still so connected with IP, but in a very different way. An organization that supports IP and firms that you worked for. And now you're programming instead of necessarily client handholding. Like it's in a very different way. So how long have you been the executive director now of ASIPI? How long has it been?
Well, I'm starting my fourth year already. Really, times fly. Yes, yes, my friend. I make my change during the pandemic. And as you said, it's a different way of being a professional in intellectual property. And that was one thing that I have to explain also in my family when I took the decision to make this change, because they didn't understand why I'm leaving all the experience and all the connection and everything that I make during more of my professional career and try to do something. So I have to explain them that I'm not leaving the intellectual property, and I don't leaving my connection. I don't leaving my friends. I don't leaving the topics that I used to work. And I'm in the same film, but I'm in different way. So uh, they understood, and they support me a lot in this choice that I took. And as you said, no, I'm not out of the intellectual property. Actually, now I feel more intellectual property lawyer than before, because mm, according to the organization that the law firms has, especially in the first law firms, you have a specialty and you have to focus in a specific area of the intellectual property. But now I have to all the time study and being also preparing for the course that we offers. And I feel more intellectual property lawyer now because I can have more knowledge about different things in our firm.
So what were the biggest factors that led you to move from private practice to your role at ASIPI?
Mhm. This is one of question that many people ask me. why I make the change. And actually, it's very simple, and I think many people is going to understand. No, we have to think that we normally in our life we have different stage, and I learned that it's important to be in situations that allow us to go in this stage, but being happy. For me, being happy means where you really want to be and focus on what really matters to you. So no one has the truth in this topic. Whatever decision you make is the right one if you feel that is good for you. So in my case, and to answer your question, I feel the necessity to make a change for two main reasons. Because I wanted, or I feel it, that I wanted to make something different with my profession. I didn't want to leave my profession. I didn't want to leave being an intellectual property expert. I didn't want to leave all the things that I got during all this time that I was working in the private section, but I wanted to make something different. And actually, my friend, I didn't know what to do, but I feel it. I feel it. I want to make something different. And the second reason is that I became a mother, and I prioritize my time with my family. So these two things came to my mind, and at that moment, and many people say you were very lucky, the opportunity to take the executive director role came up, and I just took it, and I'm very happy with that.
Well, I'm very happy to see you so happy. And I think that especially, and thank you for sharing that, because the main group that listens to, to all of this happen to be women. And we are juggling a lot, whether it's, kids or our parents, that are aging. And so, or both. So I thank you very much for being honest and sharing that information, because I think that a lot of people are kind of hesitant. They don't know. They should listen to their gut. They should be listening to, what their inside is telling them, if their career is no longer aligning in a way that makes them happy.
Yeah. I would like to say that I'm very grateful with all the opportunities and with all the experience that I got in my private practice. It's just that in some time of your life you want some changes, and I felt that all the experience that I have can be used in another way. But I'm very grateful because I think I grew a lot during the time that I was working with clients. Even I still have a lot of connection with them as a friend. I also make a very strong relation with them outside of the law firm. So and I learned a lot. And now what I can do now in my new role is thanks to all the experience that I got in my other jobs. No, so yeah, so I'm very grateful. I think it was necessary, and it's just that it's not this is better than the other ones. No, I think at the time that I was in the private sector, it was the time to be there, and I was also enjoying all the work that I make, and I try to make all the best at that moment. But now my situation, my personal situation, and my interest changed, and I felt that I need to change. And this is where I also took this role, and now also I am enjoying, and I'm trying to be to make my best.
Well, it's fantastic, and I'm glad you followed your, true north, right? So, and you found happiness in this role. So, but how was that going from member to director? I mean, that has to have been its own transition.
Yeah, but I have to say that ASIPI always was as a family for me. When I start, I was mentioning, no, that in the first law firm, I have the instructions to open the international department, and I start traveling. And the first time that I went to a conference, an international conference, was in a conference of ASIPI in Dominican Republic. So when I went there, I didn't know how, as many of our colleagues and friends also experience, no, that you go one the first time and you don't know nobody and you don't know if it's okay, if you have to, what you have really to do, if you have to give your business card or no. So all those things uh, happened to me in a CP, but it was so easy when I went there, and the people was welcome me, even people that already have a lot of years going in the conference and having also groups, they pay attention to me and they help me. So after that, when I start making other conference, and those people from ASIPI help me in this other conference. So for me, ASIPI meant a lot, and I was working during many years in different roles inside of a CP as well. I was as a member of committee. I was even before being executive director, I was also invited to be a member of the executive committee. So changing my position in a CP, it was just doing things that I knew from inside. I don't know if I can explain what I want to try to say. No, it's when I got as an executive director, I knew a CP. I was not new in a CP. I knew how it works, and I knew about the programs. Many of the programs that now we have. I was part of the group that organize the programs at the beginning. So it was more easy, I think, for me to be involved in this new role. For sure, it's a lot of challenge in this new position. For sure, I have to make things that before I didn't do. But for me, it's like a new challenge, and just I I take it, and I try to do all the best in what I have to do. And I have to say that I have a very nice group. I work with a very good group that is in different places in Latin America. That they are. There is one thing that maybe is important to say. People who works in a CP love a CP, so that makes the difference. And also the members of the executive committee are people very compromised with the CP, um, and I work with friends. So really, I cannot complain anything. I'm very happy, and especially I'm very happy because I'm doing different things that I want to do. I work on projects that benefit students. I involve in publication. I maintain institutional relationships. I'm continue growing professionally. So I'm happy for my new role.
So you've been involved in so many years. Have you noticed a change or evolution in gender diversity in ASIPI from the time you became involved, in the early 2000s, say, and compared to now?
Yes, for sure. Um, Let me tell you this. I think all the institutions grow, and a CP is not different in that way. No, it's like a matured procedure.
Hmm.
Uh, And in relation to your question, I think ASIPI changed a lot in that way, but because for the capacity of the women that are involved in the association. More and more women are getting involved in intellectual property in general, as we can see. But this also is happening in ASIPI, and I think in all the organization. But they are involved not just only as a member. I can see that they are getting leadership roles, and I'm happy for that. What I can tell you is that ASIPI is really committed to assign leadership roles to women. But one thing that is important to highlight is that these leadership roles are assigned because women has demonstrated capacity or leadership. It's not just because we need one woman in this position. And many women in ASIPI are very good workers, if I can say that in that way. They are involved in different projects. They have a lot of initiative, and that makes them to be visible in our association, and for sure to be assigned for some kind roles. So as CP, when they have to make the groups and to put the leaders in those groups, for sure we take women and men the same, and who have the capacity to have this role, so they are assigned to that role. And but I also I would like to say that we are encourage our women to also take this take actions to be more visible, but because sometimes also we see that when we need somebody, um, men's are raising the hand, and we need more women in that case. But in this way is the women that have to have this proactive action. That is the
Julie, I really enjoyed your article, especially the pie charts. So I think it's on the second page, on page 7. There are these pie charts that illustrates visually the difference in different aspects of participation within a SIPI. And it's one thing to have members that are women, but another to have them in leadership. And that I was still attending regularly when the first woman president was elected, and it was a big accomplishment, and it took time to get there. And it would be so interesting to see the same type of pie chart from the 1960s when ASIPI actually was first founded, right? Compare that to now, and I think people would see there's been a major focus increase in women in all aspects of membership and leadership, participating in the organization in different ways. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. But I think if you go to the goes back to the history of all the associations or the groups in the past, you will see that most of the people that joined those groups were men. I don't think it's just a CP or just the intellectual property field. I think in general in our history it was like that, and this is what I said. The institutions, all the institutions grow in this sense, and a CP is part of this growth. A CP grows in this sense, giving opportunity. We are not closing the doors. We are open for everybody in an equal way, and women who have this leader capacity or the capacity or the leadership, so they can get those positions. And also when we went to the path of the association, we saw that. And as you said, it took a long time to get women in leadership positions. But if you go now to our association, that is not a matter to discuss, because you can see national delegates that are women and making a lot of good work. You can see presidents of committees that they are also women and doing excellent job. Even coordinators of our institutional programs, you will see also in our website, is the leaders are women. So for us now is not an issue really. Is a equality, who have the capacity can have the role. And maybe it's very good to say that when we talk diversity or inclusion, it's not just a matter of gender topic.
It's so fantastic to hear. I love your enthusiasm for ASIPI. This is just such a perfect role. They're so lucky to have you, and you're obviously so lucky to have them. So it's what a beautiful relationship you have with your current job, your current position. I want to thank you, Julie, for joining us today. To our listeners, please like, follow, share with your friends, but also feel free to send comments and questions. Till the next time we shine a spotlight on a woman in IP. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, my dear. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Right back at you.
The Women's IP World. Women's IP World.
You have been listening to the Women's IP World podcast, hosted by Michele Katz from Advitam IP in Chicago, USA, on behalf of Northlands Media PR and Marketing Limited in the United Kingdom.
Women's IP World.